This is betrayal on a level we haven't seen in years, and I'm telling you right now, when the identity of this mystery attacker is finally revealed, it's going to send shockwaves through the entire wrestling industry. On the December 8th episode of Raw, someone walked into that building with a singular mission: destroy Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman, two of the most protected and powerful figures in WWE. And they succeeded. Bron Breakker, the undisputed WWE champion, the genetic freak who's been unstoppable since winning that title, was left laying in a pool of his own blood. Paul Heyman, the special counsel, the man who's manipulated and schemed his way through decades of wrestling, was brutalized so badly that he had to be carried out on a stretcher. This wasn't just an attack. This was a statement. This was someone declaring war on the power structure of WWE. And what makes this absolutely infuriating is that WWE security, with all their cameras and personnel, has no idea who did this. Or worse, they know exactly who it is and they're refusing to tell us because revealing the identity would expose something they're desperately trying to hide. Let me walk you through exactly what happened on Raw, because the way this attack unfolded was calculated, brutal, and frankly terrifying in its precision. The show is about halfway through, and Bron Breakker is backstage with Paul Heyman in a private locker room. They're having what appears to be a strategy session, going over plans for Bron's next title defense, discussing who poses the biggest threat to his championship reign. The conversation seems normal, professional, exactly what you'd expect from a champion and his advisor. Paul Heyman is doing what he does best, talking strategy, pointing out weaknesses in potential opponents, building up Bron's confidence while also keeping him focused and hungry. Then, without warning, the lights in that locker room flicker once, twice, and then go completely dark. The camera feed gets fuzzy with static for just a moment, and when it comes back, everything has changed. The door to the locker room has been kicked off its hinges, laying on the floor like it was made of cardboard. And standing in the doorway, silhouetted by the hallway lights behind them, is a figure dressed entirely in black tactical gear. Face completely covered by a mask. No identifying features visible. No entrance music. No announcement. Just pure, calculated menace. Bron Breakker immediately stands up and gets into a fighting stance because whatever else you want to say about him, Bron is not someone who backs down from a fight. Paul Heyman, on the other hand, immediately starts backing away because Paul knows that when violence is about to happen, his best strategy is to get out of the way and let others handle it. But this mystery attacker isn't interested in giving either of them time to prepare or escape. The attacker charges into that room with explosive speed that catches even Bron off guard. What happens next is one of the most vicious and one-sided beatdowns I've witnessed in modern WWE. The mystery attacker goes straight for Bron Breakker with an intensity that suggests this is deeply personal. They're not going for flashy wrestling moves or trying to look good for the cameras. This is pure violence designed to inflict maximum damage. The attacker hits Bron with what looks like a running knee strike that connects flush with his jaw, and you can actually hear the impact even over the chaos. Bron staggers backward into a locker, and before he can recover, the attacker is on him again with a series of brutal strikes to the body and head. Bron tries to fight back, throwing punches and attempting to use his superior size and strength to overwhelm the attacker. But here's what's genuinely shocking: the mystery attacker is matching Bron move for move. When Bron throws a punch, the attacker blocks or slips it and counters with strikes of their own. When Bron tries to grab them for a power move, the attacker escapes and continues their assault. Whoever this person is, they've clearly studied Bron's fighting style and prepared specifically for this confrontation. This isn't random chaos. This is a carefully planned execution. The fight spills out into the hallway, and production personnel and other wrestlers are starting to gather, but nobody is intervening. Whether that's because they're too shocked by what they're seeing, because they're afraid of getting caught in the violence, or because they secretly want to see Bron get humbled, we don't know. But the mystery attacker uses the hallway space to their advantage, throwing Bron into concrete walls, into equipment cases, into anything that will cause damage. At one point, the attacker whips Bron into a production cart with such force that the cart tips over and crashes to the ground with Bron tangled in the wreckage. While this is happening, Paul Heyman is trying to escape, crawling on his hands and knees down the hallway, desperately looking for help or a place to hide. But the mystery attacker hasn't forgotten about Paul. After leaving Bron momentarily incapacitated in the wreckage of that production cart, the attacker turns their attention to the special counsel. Paul sees them coming and starts pleading, putting his hands up in surrender, trying to talk his way out of the situation in that classic Paul Heyman style. Wait, we can talk about this. Whatever you want, I can get it for you. Money, opportunity, anything. The attacker doesn't say a word. They just keep advancing on Paul with that same methodical, terrifying purpose. Paul tries to scramble away, but he's not an athlete, he's not young, and he has nowhere to go. The attacker grabs Paul by his suit jacket and physically lifts him up off the ground, displaying a level of strength that suggests this person is a legitimate powerhouse despite their somewhat lean appearance in the tactical gear. Then, in what has to be one of the most shocking moments of the entire attack, the mystery attacker delivers a devastating powerbomb to Paul Heyman right there on the concrete floor. The sickening thud of Paul's body hitting the ground echoes through the hallway, and you can immediately tell this is serious. Paul isn't moving. He's completely laid out, possibly legitimately injured. Security finally arrives at this point, rushing into the hallway with multiple personnel trying to subdue the mystery attacker. But just like with every other mystery attacker in WWE history, security proves to be completely ineffective. The attacker fights off the first two security guards with ease, tossing one aside and delivering a spinning back elbow to another that drops him instantly. More guards arrive, and there's a brief moment where it looks like sheer numbers might overwhelm the attacker. But then the attacker does something that nobody expected. They pull out what appears to be some kind of weapon from their tactical vest. The camera doesn't get a clear shot of exactly what it is, but the security guards immediately back off, creating space. With security backing away and Paul Heyman down, the mystery attacker returns to Bron Breakker, who's trying to pull himself up using the wall for support. Blood is visible on Bron's face, presumably from getting thrown into various objects during the assault. He's dazed, hurt, but still trying to fight because that's the Steiner DNA, that refusal to quit even when you're beaten. The attacker approaches Bron one final time, and what happens next is going to be replayed and analyzed for weeks. The mystery attacker grabs Bron and executes what looks like a modified version of the F5, Brock Lesnar's finishing move, but with a more dangerous landing that drives Bron head and shoulders first into the concrete floor. The impact is absolutely brutal, and Bron immediately goes limp. The attacker stands over both Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman, both men laid out and incapacitated, and then does something that's either incredibly arrogant or sending a very specific message. They raise both arms above their head in a pose of dominance before turning and calmly walking away through the chaos they've created. Production cameras follow the mystery attacker as they walk through the backstage area, and this is where things get even more interesting and suspicious. Multiple wrestlers are visible in the background, watching the attacker walk past. Some look shocked, some look scared, but a few have expressions that are harder to read, almost like they knew this was going to happen or at least aren't surprised by it. The attacker walks all the way to what appears to be a side exit of the arena, pushes open the door, and disappears into the night. No chase from security. No attempt to stop them. They just leave, having completed their mission of destroying two of WWE's most prominent figures. Now let's break down why this attack is causing such massive controversy and why everyone is desperate to know the identity of this mystery attacker. First and foremost, the choice of victims is incredibly significant. Bron Breakker is not just any wrestler. He's the current undisputed WWE champion, positioned as the next face of the company, carrying one of the most prestigious titles in all of wrestling. For someone to attack and incapacitate the champion sends a message that nobody is safe and that this person doesn't fear or respect WWE's hierarchy. Paul Heyman's involvement makes this even more layered and complex. Paul is not an active wrestler. He's a 60-year-old man who serves in a managerial and advisory role. Attacking Paul crosses a line that most wrestlers won't cross, even heels, because there's an unspoken rule about not putting your hands on non-wrestlers, especially someone Paul's age with his history of health issues. The fact that this mystery attacker didn't hesitate to powerbomb Paul Heyman on concrete shows they're either completely ruthless or harboring such deep hatred that normal boundaries don't apply. The theories about who this mystery attacker could be are running absolutely rampant, and some of them are genuinely compelling. Theory number 1, which has a lot of support online, this is someone from Bron Breakker's past, possibly from his NXT days, who feels like Bron stole opportunities from them or got pushed ahead of more deserving talent. This would explain the personal nature of the attack and the specific targeting of Bron rather than just attacking random people. If this theory is correct, we're looking at someone with a deep-seated grudge who's been planning this revenge for a long time. Theory number 2 is that this attack is connected to Paul Heyman rather than Bron. Paul has made countless enemies throughout his decades in wrestling. He's betrayed partners, manipulated talent, and schemed his way through situations that left others damaged or destroyed. What if this mystery attacker is someone from Paul's past coming back for revenge? Someone who Paul used and discarded? Someone whose career Paul damaged through his manipulations? That would explain why the attacker made sure to specifically target Paul with that devastating powerbomb. Theory number 3, and this is the one that has conspiracy theorists going crazy, the mystery attacker is working for someone currently in WWE, possibly someone in a position of power. The attack was too well coordinated. Security's response was too slow and too ineffective. The cameras managed to capture everything perfectly despite the lighting issues. Some people believe this was sanctioned by someone within WWE's power structure, someone who wanted Bron and Paul taken out but couldn't be seen doing it themselves. If this theory is true, it points to a conspiracy that goes all the way to the top of WWE's management. Theory number 4 focuses on the attacker's physical characteristics and fighting style. Despite the tactical gear and mask obscuring their identity, wrestling fans are obsessive about details. People have been analyzing the attacker's height, build, movement patterns, and techniques, trying to match them to known wrestlers. Some think the attacker is someone currently on the NXT roster making a dramatic main roster debut. Others think it's someone from another promotion who WWE has secretly signed. A few people even think it could be a returning legend coming back under a mask to make an impact. Theory number 5, which honestly terrifies me if it's true, this isn't just one person. What if there are multiple people taking turns being the mystery attacker? That would explain why the attacker seems to have different physical characteristics in different attacks, why they're so effective against various opponents, and why WWE security can never seem to catch them. If there's a whole group of people working together under the same masked identity, that takes this conspiracy to a completely different level and suggests a coordinated effort to destabilize WWE from within. The aftermath of this attack has been chaotic. According to reports, Bron Breakker was taken to a local medical facility for evaluation. The visible blood and the way he was moving after that final devastating move suggested he could have sustained a concussion or worse. WWE hasn't released an official statement about his condition, which is both concerning and frustrating for fans who want to know if their champion is okay. The uncertainty about Bron's health creates legitimate questions about upcoming championship defenses and whether this mystery attacker has successfully taken the title out of commission. Paul Heyman's condition is even more worrying. A man his age taking a powerbomb on concrete is legitimately dangerous, regardless of whether this is a work or contains elements of reality. Paul was stretchered out and taken to a hospital, according to backstage sources. There's been speculation about everything from broken bones to internal injuries to concussion protocols. If Paul is seriously hurt, it raises serious ethical questions about WWE allowing or planning an angle that could legitimately injure a 60-year-old non-wrestler. The reaction from other WWE superstars has been telling. Several wrestlers have posted cryptic messages on social media that could be interpreted as supporting the mystery attacker's actions or at least not condemning them. Others have expressed concern for Bron and Paul while carefully avoiding saying anything about the attacker themselves. The silence and measured responses from the locker room suggest that opinions are divided about whether this attack was justified, whether Bron and Paul had it coming, or whether everyone is just too afraid to speak out against someone who's proven to be this dangerous. WWE's official response has been minimal and frustrating. They've acknowledged that an incident occurred and that they're investigating, but they've released no substantial information about the attacker's identity or how this was allowed to happen. Some fans see this as WWE maintaining kayfabe and building suspense. Others see it as WWE stalling because they don't actually have a plan for who the attacker is and they're scrambling to figure out how to resolve this angle. The lack of transparency is generating frustration and conspiracy theories in equal measure. Social media has been absolutely nuclear with speculation, theories, and demands for answers. The hashtag #WhoAttackedBron was trending worldwide within hours of the episode airing. Wrestling journalists and insiders are being bombarded with questions, and those who claim to have inside information are being very careful about what they reveal, either because they genuinely don't know or because they've been told to keep quiet. The mystery has created exactly the kind of engagement WWE wants, but there's a fine line between intriguing mystery and frustrating audiences by withholding information too long. The business implications are massive. If Bron Breakker is legitimately injured and can't defend his championship, WWE has to make decisions about whether to strip him of the title, create an interim champion, or delay scheduled title matches. Any of these options creates problems and potentially damages the value of the championship. If this is all a work and Bron is fine, WWE needs to reveal that relatively quickly or fans will start questioning the seriousness of anything that happens on their programming. From a storytelling perspective, WWE has created a genuinely compelling mystery if they can stick the landing with a satisfying reveal. The best mystery angles in wrestling history worked because the eventual reveal made sense, added layers to the story, and created new interesting dynamics. The worst mystery angles failed because the reveal was disappointing, made no sense, or felt like WWE just picked a random person because they hadn't actually planned who it would be. Which category this angle falls into depends entirely on who the mystery attacker turns out to be. Looking at the actual execution of the attack, several things stood out that could be clues to the attacker's identity. The use of tactical gear suggests military or security training, which could point to certain wrestlers with those backgrounds. The fighting style showed a mix of striking and power moves that's consistent with several current WWE wrestlers. The size and build, while somewhat obscured by the gear, seem to indicate someone who's a legitimate heavyweight but not a giant. All of these details are being analyzed frame by fans trying to solve the mystery. The weapon that was pulled out during the security confrontation is particularly interesting and concerning. Was it a real weapon or a prop? If it was real, that raises serious questions about safety and about whether this person is legitimately dangerous. If it was a prop, it was effective enough to make trained security personnel back off, which means it was designed to intimidate. Either way, introducing weapons into this angle adds a layer of danger and unpredictability that WWE hasn't typically embraced in recent years. So where do we go from here? WWE has created a situation where millions of fans are desperately waiting for answers. Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman are both down, both potentially injured, both taken out by a mystery attacker whose identity remains hidden. The December 15th episode of Raw is going to be crucial. Does the mystery attacker strike again? Does WWE reveal their identity? Do Bron and Paul return ready for revenge? Every possible direction creates new questions and new storylines. What I know for certain is this: whoever is behind that mask better be worth the build-up. If this turns out to be someone random or someone who can't live up to the moment, the backlash is going to be severe. But if WWE has actually planned this correctly and the reveal makes sense while opening up compelling new storylines, this could be one of the best angles they've done in years. So I need to hear from you right now. Who do you think the mystery attacker is? Do you think this was a work or did it go too far? Should WWE have protected Paul Heyman better given his age? And what should happen to this person when they're finally caught? Drop every theory, every thought, every prediction in the comments right now. If you're as angry as I am about WWE keeping us in the dark, smash that like button. If you think you've figured out who it is, leave your guess in the comments. Share this video with everyone who's trying to solve this mystery. And subscribe to WrestlingNewsCC with notifications on, because when this identity is finally revealed, we're going to break it down immediately. Someone destroyed Bron Breakker and Paul Heyman, and we're not resting until we know who and why.